All right, we're not making an official SV Math Teach video here. I'm just kind of giving you some info for those of you that are advanced and moving on to the probability piece in section 4-4. There are 4 different questions. Let's get my pen working here. Oh, I'm gonna get my pen activated. Hold on. So there's 4 different kinds of questions that you're going to see within the probability section. Come on. Pair. There we go. So here are the 4 types. The first one you're going to see looks like, well, this one. Let's go here. Here we go. So the following table shows the results of a survey of men and women about their favorite beverage. So the choices are juice and milk, and there's men and women, right? So we have the total number of people that participate in this survey. We have the total number of women that participated, the total number of men that participated, the total number of human beings that prefer juice, the total number of human beings that prefer milk. So we have all that information. And what it's asking is, what's the probability? When it writes P with parentheses, it means what's the probability? P is probability, right? So what's the likelihood? What are the chances that if we choose someone at random, that we're going to choose a man? That's all it's asking, right? So it's whatever this piece is what we're after. So since it says men, we're asking what's the probability that when we choose somebody from our group of people, there's 139 of them, that it is a man. So you can answer this question 2 different ways. You could say, well, how many men are out of the total number of people? So we could simply say there's 76 men out of 139 people. And the question says you may be exact. So what it means by exact is you could just type in a fraction. The issue with fractions is you have to make sure they're simplified all the time. And if you're good with simplifying, and some of you are, then you could always attempt to simplify. If you're not comfortable with simplifying, you might want to use the second option, round it to 2 decimal places. So 76 and 139, what do we got here? So 76, let's try that again, divided by 139. And we get this thing. So 2 decimal places would be 0.55. The 6 makes the 4 go up. So 0.55. So 2 different answers here. You could use approximately 0.55 would be an answer. Or if I remember correctly, this probably is simplified. Either one of those 2 things would be sufficient, right? So this is the simplest style of question. What's the probability that you're going to choose a man from your sample? That's it. Change color, look at the second one. The second one gives you a different question, right? So it's got some different phrasing there. This is about a table surveying men and women again. We're surveying men and women. Some of them are employed full-time, some of them are unemployed. As before, we know how many people were surveyed. We know how many of them were women. We know how many of them are men. We know how many of them are unemployed. We know how many of them are employed full-time. So we know lots of information. This one says, what's the probability that, and I'm going to abbreviate here, that you choose a woman from the unemployed, group of people. So what's the probability that you're going to choose a woman from the unemployed people, right? So the only group that we're going to be looking at are the unemployed. The unemployed, I'm going to go unemployed full-time. There are 148 unemployed. And how many of them are women? Well, 68 of them. So the probability that you're going to choose a woman from the group that is unemployed is 68 out of 148, right? It's the number of women in the group we're discussing. And the group we're discussing is the unemployed group. Now, like before, you can answer, let's erase some stuff here. You can answer your question exactly. Now, the thing that I notice about this one is that these are both even, the 68 and the 148. So at a minimum, I'm going to start dividing these by 2. 30, 34, and 174. Nope, 74. And those are both even again, so I'm going to divide them both by 2 again. Right, you get the idea. 17 over, 35, 36, 37, and 17 and 37 look like it's simplified. So we could be done there. Or like in the last one, we can round it to 2 decimal places. So 68 and 148, here we go. 68 divided by 148 is 0.46. 0.46. So either one of these would be okay, 0.46, and you'd be good, right? So that's what it means when you see this little line right here. It's how many of these out of this group. All right, moving on. Let's switch colors again. Let's go back to blue. Third question. A new item once again. This is what's the probability of volleyball players, and then there's this funky U shape. Now that U shape is one of two new symbols you're going to learn. This U shape has, in mathematics, it has the word union associated with it. Now, a union in math or in statistics is when you take all of the stuff from one group and all of the stuff from the other group and you put them together. The example might be, let's imagine that when I married my wife, this was back in like, the 90s or the early 2000s. When we were married, I had a whole bunch of CDs from my college days, and she had a whole bunch of CDs from her college days. So I took all of my CDs and put them into a big pile. She took all of her CDs, right, compact discs, and put them into a big pile. And we were going to have a huge pile of CDs, right, lots of music. But there was going to be some overlap as well. I don't know, let's say Billy Joel, right, an artist from the 80s and early 90s. I had the CDs, or I had like his greatest hits, and so did she. So now we had two of these things. We didn't need both of them. So we only really would keep one, and the other one we sold or gave away or whatever. So in unions, you want to get everything that you can, but you don't want to list things twice. So with that in mind, here's what it says. It's saying, what's the probability, so I'm going to zoom in here, what's the probability that you choose somebody that plays volleyball or somebody that is a man? Okay, so let's go ahead and check this out. So volleyball, union, men. So here's what I observe, right? We have how many people play baseball total, how many people play volleyball total, how many total people we asked, how many women, how many men, we get that. So we have a couple different things here. So I'm going to look at some highlighting. How many people play volleyball? I'm going to go across this, and I'm going to say there's 85 total people that play volleyball. The union. How many people are men? Well, 51 of them are men. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this number and this number. So it might be easy just to say, well, there's 51 men and there's 85 volleyball players. So put those two things together. Let's see, 135 is 136, and we'd say there's 136. However, look at this. 136 is more than our total number. We only had 109 people in the first place. I don't think we can have 136 volleyball players that happen to be men. And the reason why that number is so high is because you might notice this 32 is counted twice. That's like my Billy Joel CD and my wife's Billy Joel CD. We're counting it twice, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to remove that number that was counted twice from my total. And now I have my number, 104, that is the number of volleyball players and the number of men, right? If you play volleyball or if you're a man, how many people fall into one of those two categories? 104 people fall into those categories. How many people are there total? There's still a total of 109 people. So that means your answer is 104 out of 109. And because the video is getting a little lengthy, I'll remind you that you can do it exact, like we have it here with the fraction, or you can round it to 2 decimal places using your calculator, right? Top number divided by bottom number. That's how you do that. So that's what a union means. A union means you want all of one group and all of the other group, but you do have to watch that you don't find yourself overlapping somewhere. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the opposite symbol. All right, our last example. The opposite symbol is this symbol right here, which looks like the union symbol, but it's upside down. This symbol is, in math, the intersection symbol, or sometimes called the and symbol. When I think of an intersection, I think of, like, let's say Walnut Street that goes one way, and in Hellertown, Main Street that goes the other. If you're on Walnut Street, you're on this path. If you're on Main Street, you're on this path. The intersection of those two is this spot right here. So when I use that example of my wife's CDs and my CDs, if we talked about the intersection of our CD collections, the only intersection was that one Billy Joel Greatest Hits album. That was the only intersection between the two. So if I use that as an example here, find the probability that I choose the intersection, the overlap, the and, between sophomores and people that I guess use cars. So here's what I observe. Sophomores, well, here's the sophomore line, and cars, here's the car column. I want the intersection, and you can see that the intersection there is pretty easy to see. It's the thing that is intersecting between those two. So you're going to go ahead and make yourself a probability. Probabilities are there's 69 of these people out of the total 259. And as before, you can take this on as a simplification problem. I got to be honest, even as a teacher, I'm not sure I'm excited about trying to simplify 69 over 259. I'm sure I could do it, but this one doesn't seem real easy to me. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and use the rounding to 2 decimal places technique. So 69 and 259, let's go ahead and check that out. 69 divided by 2, we got 69, 259, 259, and it says round to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to go ahead and say 0.27. And I think I would skip the simplifying and just go with the decimal on that one. So that is the idea behind those 4 different styles of questions. If you're on this video, then you're already advanced. Good luck trying to answer those questions.